Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Nolu Maki podcast. Thank you for joining me on today's podcast. I have one jammed-packed show for us today. There's a lot, guys, that has been going on. I apologize for the late release or recording of this segment of our podcast. There's a lot this week. I think this week I just lost track of time, and I was not fully ready when it comes to Eskom. Those who know, they know. So today, guys, I will be talking about the business owner who have allowed children to come in, and now they've died. We're going to talk about a Enyobeni Tavern saga that happened over the weekend, as well as we're going to talk about the mandates which are all gone right now, the mask mandates, as well as we're going to be talking about the issue of the Roe v. Wade overturn, which of course that is a story for my US audience. And then I also wanted to add just a couple of things into today's podcast that are in relation to what I found quite interesting in the past week. As I've said, guys, we're going to be talking about the business owner of Enyobeni. We're going to talk about electricity saga, which we are in right now. And so those are the four things that I want us to talk about this week on this week's podcast. Again, this is the Nolu Maki podcast, and this is where we talk about issues that impact businesses and brands. So welcome to it. And let me just get my coffee. Now let's start. Last week, I remember I had just gotten back from church, and I went just to get my daily dose when it comes to social media. And I remember very clear seeing the story of young children, or let me call them young people, who died in a tavern. It was a trending story, which to a certain degree it's a story which most Africans, they are talking about, debating, discussing. And the debate, it goes along the lines of, where were the parents? Why did the owner allow those kids to go and experiment with alcohol in that tavern? Because they are minors who are not supposed to be there. All right. Firstly, of course, I was just shocked. Not because I've never sneaked out and maybe gotten naughty, but it was never my vibe, to be honest. Second of all, I could just relate to the story because I am an aunt, and I know how young teenagers, whenever they're in that adolescent stage, they want to experiment on alcohol. I know how does that feel, and I know how difficult is it to convince a child who is a teenager in that adolescent stage, when you tell them that no, do not do this, do not go to this place, and they would be very much persistent because it's that YOLO stage, which is very, very much, I would say it's very toxic and destructive, So my take on the story is, I'm talking about it based on the business side of things, and that is, in our society, especially as Black people, it's a norm for somebody to run a business that harms the society, especially that harms the children, which they in turn need to be the ones that carry on living in that particular community. So you then find that we turn a blind eye to someone who starts a business fundamentally based on just destroying children, because we believe that it's someone's right to have fun, or rather, let me say, to open up a business and to hire people and quote unquote create some jobs in the community, which is all fair, I understand, but the tragedy of black communities being riddled with taverns, shebeens, corner pocket, whatever you call them, I just think that it has gone too far, and it starts from us lacking parenting our children. It starts from us thinking that everything goes when it comes to the upbringing of a child, forgetting that children, they do what you do. And what is that? When you as a parent are, I guess, rather let me say, when you as a parent, maybe you are in your own phase of using alcohol, and upon using that alcohol, you do not make it a point or teach your children that it is not meant for them. Rather, it's meant for adults, and at a certain time they will be free to use or experiment on alcohol. I know this because I know it from my dad. He used to tell me that, listen, right now it's not your time to be drinking. And I would hear what he says and respect what he says and not even dare think of touching his alcohol until I was old enough to taste it. And not that I had interest anyways, but by the time I was ready to drink by age. So my point is that there's a lot that our society needs to stand up against when it comes to issues of alcohol abuse. And for me, I'm one person who's not for this whole cry of government saying that they need to intervene. Simply because this is not this is not a